Hello everyone, I'm the Fattinger Geek, and welcome to another video. So instead of doing a Kaiju Movie Differences video here, I asked y'all about it on Discord, and so y'all want it. Now, this, again, personal opinion, this is my top 10 Godzilla movies from the Showa series. Yeah, I just can't pick 10 out of the 30 plus Godzilla movies that I got over there. So, yeah, sorry that I can't pick all at once, so I'll just pick my favorite movies from the Showa series, then the Millennium, or the Heisei series, then the Millennium series. So let's start off with the Showa series, number 10, Godzilla vs. Megalon. Now this is one of my childhood movies that I grew up with. I had a VHS copy that had the English cut of the film, and It's got a good plot to it. It's really good, but it's really goofy in some places. And in the English version, that kid's voice is obnoxious. He's less of a problem in the Japanese version. For some reason, Japanese kids never really annoyed me. It's always been the English dub that makes the kid's voice annoying. Kind of like in the Gamera films with the U.S. dubs for Godzilla or for Gamera films. So yeah, I mean, I love Megalon. It's one of my favorite monsters. Megalon is just like a giant bug with just lightning that shoots from his horn. It was pretty good back then. It's still, to me, is good today, even though it's not. The reason why it's on number 10 is because I grew up watching it, so it's one of my favorites growing up. So now, if I want to watch Godzilla vs. Megalon, I watch the Japanese version. So, number 9 is a tie between Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster and Son of Godzilla. So, reason why that I picked these two for my number 9 spot is, for one, I grew up watching these movies, and they were two of my favorite films to watch back then, besides Gigan. But anyways, yeah, I mean, these two movies, Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, or whatever, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, had one of the most interesting plots that I didn't get back then. But now that I got older and watched the movie, it's a really interesting plot. And as for Son of Godzilla, this is a type of movie that some people either hate or some people like. I personally like this movie because I did like Minya growing up. I didn't start. Well, back then I used to call Godzilla Achoo, and whenever I see Minya, I didn't call him Minya. I called him Baby Achoo until I got Godzilla's Revenge when he was called Minya in there. But yeah, I mean, these two movies are some of the best memories I've had in my life, just like watching these movies. I used to cry at the end whenever Minya was in the snow with Godzilla, but I thought they were going to die and everything, so it doesn't happen in the movie. They don't die, they just hibernate, so I was pretty stupid back then for thinking that. But anyways, these two are some of the most memorable movies that I grew up watching. So that's why they're on the number 9 spot. Next, number 8. You probably should have seen this coming. Godzilla vs. Gigan. The English version, of course, but Gigan. Godzilla vs. Gigan. Some people don't like this movie. Some people do. I personally like it because, again, it's one of my childhood movies. So I enjoyed watching it back then. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, for me at least, I like it was one of the second or third time that actually I believe it was the third time that aliens tried to take over the world just by controlling a monster. So yeah, this movie, I always loved Gigan as a kid, playing Godzilla, destroy all monsters, melee, and save the Earth. Gigan was one of my favorite monsters to play as, and still is to this day. I mean, Gigan is just an interesting yet weird-looking monster that makes this movie stand out from some of the movies that I have on the list. So, number 7. Godzilla Raids again, particularly the Japanese version. Of course, you know that I can't stand the English version, but the Japanese version, it's really good. It's pretty good. I mean, it's poorly edited, and there's some stuff that looks weird throughout the movie, like when Godzilla and Ghidorah are fighting. It looks like they just drank a bunch of Red Bull and started fighting each other. So, yeah, that in that part, the movie is considered bad, but I like this movie. It's the second film in the Godzilla series, and I can't not hate it. And it's just, to me, it's just an entertaining film. The plot is interesting, and Anguirus, the introduction to Anguirus, which was one of my favorite monsters back then, and I didn't grow up watching Godzilla Raids again, but then again, I liked Anguirus in general because of Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, Melee, and Save the Earth. I liked Anguirus. So, Godzilla Raids again, yeah, it's pretty good, so I recommend you watching it, but the Japanese version, of course, you need to watch that version. Number 6, Mothra vs. Godzilla. Now, this movie I've never liked that much growing up because the plot was just not interesting to me. It just was like this jerk face just steals Mothra's egg and tries to make a selling point around like some sort of he was a jerk. Twin fairies, he was a jerk to them too. Anyways, Godzilla vs. Mothra. Yeah. Like I said, I never really I never liked that movie growing up because it focused more on the people than Godzilla and Mothra. But now that I'm older and look at this film I used to not like watching the human parts of the movie, so I would just skip to the monster action. So, looking at it now, it's one of the it's probably one of the best films in the original series. I mean, it shows how indestructible Godzilla really is in this film. And they show you just how indestructible he is by zapping him with lightning, shooting missiles, bombs, all sorts of napalm rockets and stuff like that. Nothing works. And yet Mothra ends up dying, but yet her babies. I always hated that when I was a kid. The Mothra larvae just hatch out of the egg and then end up covering Godzilla in silk. I used to not like that part of the movie. I thought that Godzilla should have won that, but this was back then when he was a bad guy, so it's a good ending for this part, I guess. But they didn't kill him. It was just a minor setback. But yeah, one of the most weirdest things I've ever seen in this movie is when Godzilla comes up out of the ground. I don't know, did he go to hell or something? Or it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know why that he would be rising up out of the ground. It's like that he just, I don't know, woke up in hell and just like climbed his way up out of hell and just went and just like, hey everybody, it's me, I'm in this movie. But no, I doubt that, but that's just a joke. But yeah, this movie, it's one of the best in the original series by far, and I really enjoy it to this very day, even though I wasn't really that big a fan of Mothra back then. So, number 5, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. This movie is one of the best in the original series, even though that I think it was kind of rushed. It was the first entrance to King Ghidorah, or King Ghidorah, whatever you want to call him, and it was his first appearance, so it was one of the most iconic monsters being born in this monster bash of a movie, and it's really good. It's got an interesting plot to it, and it's just a really good movie. I recommend watching the Japanese version, but if you don't like reading subtitles, you can watch the English version. The English version doesn't entirely mess up the entire plot like it does Godzilla Raids again. But, yeah, I highly recommend this movie. It's one of the best in the original series, despite it seeming like that it was rushed, because the special effects, you see Godzilla's atomic breath being like sprayed out from his mouth. It just doesn't look as impressive as that time that he uses it to destroy that boat. So yeah, that's it for Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Number 4, Terror of Mechagodzilla. One of the best in the 70s Godzilla films. Probably one of the best, because it has Mechagodzilla. And this is one of the movies I also grew up watching, but it was later in life when I actually got my hands on this one. So, yeah, it was a little bit after when I had only Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, Son of Godzilla, Gigan, and Megalon. So, yeah, this is I enjoyed watching this, even though that I really only skipped to the monster scenes. And Titanosaurus is a pretty interesting kaiju. So, it's a good movie. I recommend it. It has a good plot, even though that the alien invasion plot was getting a little old at this point. It's pretty good. So, number 3, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. This movie is better than Terror of Mechagodzilla in every way possible. It's the introduction of Mechagodzilla, mechanical double of Godzilla, of course, and he has one of the most crazy powers in the entire Showa series. And this movie is really good with setting the mood of the monster action and prophecies coming through and stuff like that. This movie is just all good. One of the best in the series, by far. But the thing about it is that this movie, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, has this woman singing, which I'm not really bothered by it any more than I was when I first watched it. So yeah, I highly recommend this movie. It's really good. Number 2, the Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla. Now, let's talk about King Kong vs. Godzilla. I had a VHS tape, growing up, and I watched the English version. I enjoy the English version, but whenever I looked at the Japanese version, my eyes just went from the English version to the Japanese version and said, this is the better movie. And besides that, it's really funny. I mean, the actor of Mr. Taco in this film is hilarious. He is one of the he was in a few Japanese comedies back then, and he appeared in this movie, and he does a really good job playing the Carl Denham type character that you know is in full control of what people he sent over to Faroe Island to get Kong. So yeah, King Kong vs. Godzilla. Watch this version. This is a bootleg copy, but if you can get your hands on it, I recommend watching this. This version is better than the English version. You've heard me about 100 times already. This movie is great. So, in my opinion. So, number 1, Gojira, the first one. Yeah, not too surprising that the first Godzilla film would be the best of the entire series. So yeah, it's dark, it's gloomy, black and white makes Godzilla look scary. It's really good. The Japanese version by far is the best one, but the English version starring Raymond Burr is not bad either. But yeah, this movie, what can I say about it? It's the first Godzilla film ever made, and it's a masterpiece of a giant monster or horror film. So, yeah, I mean, I highly recommend you watch the Japanese version. If you've already watched it, if you have this copy that I got right here, it has both the English and Japanese version. Get this right now, because this movie is one of the best monster movies I've ever seen in my life. So that's it for my top 10 Showa films in the Godzilla series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys later.